Good afternoon, brothers and sisters in Christ. We're gonna be in Proverbs chapter 29 today. We'll go back to Jeremiah next time. I need some Proverbs in my life this morning. I went to take a drink. In fact, I actually started a video on Jeremiah chapter 4 a little bit ago, and I went to take a drink of my V8 because it still had some left in it. It wasn't V8. My boyfriend, he uses chewing tobacco. It wasn't V8. It's one way to tell me that you don't want me to talk about Jeremiah chapter 4 today, God. I need some Proverbs. I was teaching my son about the word respect. Proverbs is all about respecting others, respecting yourself, and respecting God. But God first, right? Because we can't do any of these things without God. And as I was teaching him, I was having him look up the word. And then he goes, well, I still don't know what it means because I don't know what this word, and this word means. It's honor, regard, esteem, and to treat with difference. He knows what difference means. He said it's like it's a scale where one's different from the other, and you have two different ways you could do it. And I said, well, yeah, that's true. That's a good way to put it, because the Lord doesn't like differing weights. He likes balanced scales, right? So this morning is going to be Proverbs chapter 29. And as he's learning what respect is, it reminded me that the whole book of Proverbs is all about respect and love and what you say and how to act. Don't act foolish. Act with wisdom. And I figured it would be a good place to start this day at. So, Heavenly Father, I thank you for this morning, Lord. I asked as I continue to teach my son about what respect is, that he learn in the way that you need him to learn, Father God. Not just the way I learned, because the way I learned respect was very terribly. I learned that you have to give respect to get it. Even though I never got any respect, even though I was respectful. Lord, help me to teach him in a way that helps him to understand the way you see respect. And as we get into your word, Lord, I ask that you help me to convey your message today. And I also ask, Lord, that you help me not to feel yucky today, Lord, because I was already feeling sick this morning. My stomach already hurt. I'm congested. I have a sore throat. And on top of it, I drink chewing tobacco. So, Lord, help me throughout this day not to feel unwell. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Alright, Proverbs chapter 29. Why Proverbs chapter 29? Because today is December 29th. We're going by the days whenever we read Proverbs, okay? He who is often rebuked and hardens his neck will suddenly be destroyed, and with that without remedy. This is something that I'm trying to teach my son because he's stubborn. He's stubborn like me. And he likes to use the phrases, I don't know, I can't remember, and nobody told me. This is something that I learned that is unacceptable whenever you're walking this walk with Christ, because isn't the one that made your heart, doesn't the one who made your heart know that in fact you knew? You can't say to these things that you didn't know, or nobody told you, or you didn't remember, because God knows your heart and He knows what's really going on. So I'm telling him, Orion, you tell me these things like you don't know, and then you give me an answer that doesn't really seem right, and then you come break down and you say the real answer, and when all the while you could have just told me in the first place. Skipped all that nonsense. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked man rules, the people groan. I see a lot of groaning in our world today because we got a lot of wickedness in our government. I'm just saying, you can't continue to hide your head under the stand and tell me that it's raining whenever somebody's pissing all over you. Whoever loves wisdom makes his father rejoice, but a companion of harlots wastes his wealth. So, I've been down that road. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was a companion of harlots. I had a lot of friends whenever I was homeless that were prostitutes. I had a lot of friends that were drug dealers, and I had a lot of friends that were thieves. And if my grandpa were alive to see that, he wouldn't be rejoicing in the choices I made. Although if my grandpa were alive, he probably wouldn't have allowed me to become homeless. That's the only one in my family that wanted to actually show an interest in me rather than taking much joy in hurting me. So my grandpa is my dad. He adopted me along with my grandma. They adopted me and my sister, and they raised us. He is the one that I choose and the one that I see as my dad. Because my actual dad, well, he's a real piece of work. As I've told you before, he's intentionally have tried to kill me since I was a baby. Even had people try and kill me, tried to burn me alive. a lot of things that I wish my real dad was, but he's not. And that has to do a lot with drugs. I'm not saying I'm any better because I put my kids through some things whenever I went into my addiction. If I had understood what drugs were, if I had understood that I should stay away from drugs because I was born addicted to methamphetamine, because my mom used to slam between her toes when she was pregnant with me, if I had known that I would that's why I should stay away from them, because it's going to consume my entire life, my mentality, and there's nothing that I could do about it, I probably would have not tried it. If somebody would have just said more than drugs are bad. If somebody had to explain to me, because that's all it takes is a better explanation of things. That's what it takes for my son to understand, is a better explanation of things. That's why I'm having him look up what respect is and find out what the other words in the definition mean, because words hold a lot of meaning. God spoke the universe into existence. Words hold power. And whenever you destroy the meaning of words, like what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a man, when you go and destroy the meaning of these things, you are destroying the very essence of what the true meaning of things are. But you can never destroy God's truth with your truth. Just gonna say that now. A king establishes the land by justice, but he who receives bribes overthrows it. That one goes without explanation. Like, don't accept bribery, because that's just going to bring destruction on you and everyone around you. A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for their feet. Spreads a net for his feet. So, whenever you're sitting there, I do not have time for your flattery. Oh my gosh, Heather, you're so beautiful. Oh my gosh, girl, you're so strong. I don't have time for your flattery. It's blasphemy to me. Don't try and butter me up whenever I know that you just want something from me. That's happened my whole life. People flatter me to get what they want, and it doesn't work. I just say, what do you want? Whenever they start flattering me, that's the first question that comes out of my mouth. It might be a little bit rude, but I'm not a child. I don't think like a child, and I haven't thought like a child for a long time, because I've never been treated like a child. I've been treated a lot like a servant or a slave or an adult. I had to grow up really quick, and I had to know things before I was able to even comprehend what they meant. There's things going on in this world that, oh my gosh, I look around and I'm like, what are you doing? So whenever somebody is sitting there flattering me, telling me, trying to butter me up, trying to whisper little sweet nothings in my ear, I just tell them, what do you want? Just ask me. You don't gotta do all that. Just ask. You're gonna waste my time and piss me off otherwise. So it's like it's saying right here, a man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet. You're setting a trap. You're trapping the person that you're flattering. oh, I'll love you forever if you don't, you just don't do that. Because as soon as somebody starts doing that to me, is when I get irritated. Because I already know you're just trying to trap me in what you're saying. Don't do it. By transgression, an evil man is snared, but the righteous sings and rejoices. So, whenever you do something wrong, you become trapped by your own sin. But the righteous will sing and rejoice. The people that do what is right are free to be happy and sing and rejoice. The righteous consider the cause of the poor, but the wicked does not understand such knowledge. So it took me being humbled hard by God to understand what I was doing and saying when I would just pass a bum on the street. Go get a job. Okay, Heather, how many jobs have you actually had? Not very many. How many times did you wish somebody would help you out whenever you were homeless, but they didn't? So, it's important to consider the cause of the poor. But the wicked does not understand such knowledge. I didn't understand that knowledge until I've been through it. Don't make judgment on something. Don't make judgments on somebody whenever you don't understand what they're going through. You say it's so easy to do all these things. It's actually not. It's really hard. It's really hard to get past mental illness. It's really hard to get a job whenever you don't have any good references to go by, and whenever you don't have that much job history, because they won't accept it. I remember whenever I was trying to get a job, they wouldn't accept the fact that I was part of a family farm my whole life. They wouldn't accept that that was my area of expertise. I don't know about now, but that's what hindered me a lot from getting a job, is because I couldn't put my family as references. I couldn't put my family as a job reference, because it's just not how it worked whenever I was seeking jobs whenever I first started out. So, I certainly gained a very good understanding of that kind of knowledge. Scoffers set a city aflame, but wise men turn away wrath. So if you're just going to sit there and mock and scoff at people, you're setting the whole city on fire. We see that with these protests that they do. Okay, there's a difference between protesting and an angry mob. You sit there and you say, "We're protesting," and you mob. That's not a protest. That's an angry mob. You're just missing the pitchforks and the torches. No, you're carrying a big old foghorn, or a, what are they called? The megaphones, foghorn, and a cell phone, and videotaping everything so that you can make the other person out to be something that they're not, whenever you're just making yourself look like a fool. You can't even back up your argument with facts. You just, whenever somebody actually asks you questions like, what are you representing whenever you protest, you can't stand before their questions because you know it's a lie. Or you don't even understand why you're out there yourself. You just want to be part of everything. Stop. Scoffers set a city aflame. That's what you're becoming. You're becoming a mocker. You're making a mockery of this country. You're making a mockery of everything that we stand for. And you're turning our rights into a way to oppress others. You're not utilizing this life correctly. But wise men turn away wrath. All it takes is one person that understands what to say and how to say it to calm a whole situation. I see it all the time. Whenever somebody's sitting there yelling and protesting on their stupid little chants that they don't even understand what they're saying, all it takes is a wise person to point out, do you actually know what you're chanting? Do you know what that means? You know, the chant that says Palestine will be free from the mountains to the sea or whatever, that is a call to genocide. Most of those people that are chanting that stuff don't even understand what they're saying. They're calling for genocide. And they can't even understand that. And then the girl with her little megaphone that's saying that we're going to boycott all these companies. The list that she's saying, and she gets to Nike. And then the person videotaping her zooms in on her shoes and she's wearing Nike shoes. You don't even know how to stand for what you're protesting for. So sit down and actually do some research on what it is that you want to protest. Otherwise, you're going to make yourself look like an idiot. If a wise man contends with a foolish man, whether the fool rages or laughs, there is no peace. Okay, so if I'm going to get in an argument with a fool, there's not going to be any peace. Because the fool's just going to laugh and continue to rage on out of control against what I'm saying, even if it goes against all sound judgment. There's no winning with these people. There's really not. That's what most of the left is out of control, loud, obnoxious fools that don't let anybody else get in a word edgewise, and they have to yell over everybody else. Just because you say it louder doesn't mean it's going to make it correct. Out of a room full of loud people, the wise man is silent. People will listen to someone, in all actuality, they will pay more attention to the one that is silent than all the yelling fools. If they have any form of intelligence at all, that's what they will do. The bloodthirsty hate the blameless, but the upright seek his well-being. So that is very true. The people that continue to do things and out of their own lust and their own bloodthirstiness, you're out for somebody else's blood whenever you're only out for yourself. Whenever you're only looking out for yourself. That caused you to be bloodthirsty. You will get whatever it is that you want at any means necessary, and that causes you to be a bloodthirsty person. And they hate the people that are trying to do good. See, there's a big controversy between the left and the right, conservatives and there's big controversy. It's easy to go and look it up. There's constant fight. The conservatives will have a calm protest. We know how to say what we're trying to say without cussing. We know how to say it calmly. And we know how to be able to reach a level of understanding that these I'm not saying all leftists are like that, because I know a few, and I could actually have a calm conversation with them about political views. Whenever it comes down to the individual person, I think it's really important to be able to speak. And I have a couple of friends that are on the left that some of them are those loud and obnoxious people that you just can't really get past. And I have to really avoid those friends that used to be friends. But I have like two friends that I could actually talk to. And it's sad. It's sad that the out of the 20 people that I know that are leftists, I could only talk to two without it becoming violent. So, whenever you seek understanding, you're seeking well being, not only for yourself but for the other person. A fool vents all his feelings, but the wise man holds back. So, that also goes with what I was just saying. The wise man will stay silent in the presence of fools that are only there venting their own opinion, their own anger, their own feelings, right? Because my feelings matter. So do mine, but go ahead. A ruler pays attention to lie, or if a ruler pays attention to lies, all his servants become wicked. So we see that going on in our country too. The media is spreading lies for our rulers. They'd rather cover up the truth and speak on lies so that they could mislead everybody. And it's not right, it's not okay. But if you have half a brain, actually seek out the truth. All it takes is going a little bit further, say out of this country, for instance, just a little bit out of this country to actually find good news sources that you could actually rely on. Not only that, there's Dan Bongino, there's Matt Walsh, there's Pat Gray, there's people like them that aren't afraid to speak the truth. Candace Owens, I can't remember the other name, but if you seek the truth, okay, there's a Proverbs that says if you seek out good, you will find it, but if you seek out bad, it will find you. If you seek out evil, it will find you. If you're always looking for the bad in situations, it's going to find you. You go looking for trouble, it's going to find you. If you go looking for good, you will find it. It doesn't say if you go looking for evil, you'll find it. It says it will find you. Why? Because evil is constantly stalking us all so that it can engulf us. It's easy to spot the negative. Look for the positive. Look for the good. Look for the actual truth. And you won't get consumed by evil. You look for evil, it will find you. Plain, simple, point blank, period. The poor man and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both. So God gives sight to both the poor and the oppressor. The poor can see that they are being oppressed by the oppressor, and the oppressor can see what their effect is having on the poor, take that in consideration. The government knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they know beforehand what it's going to cause. They want all this division. They want all this hatred because it takes our eyes off them. It gets us focused on each other and, well, like the race thing, okay? That's not how I was raised. I mean, yeah, my grandma and my grandpa would say some racial slurs every once in a while. My grandma, for instance, did, but my grandpa, his best friend for most of his life was a black man. So my grandpa, and he constantly, he knew how to speak Spanish. He constantly immersed himself in order to gain understanding of people. My grandma was not so much like that. She was the one saying racial slurs and stuff. So I chose to learn from my grandpa on that standing point rather than my grandma. My grandma did tell me that you can't say certain things around certain people because you'll get beat up. And I'm like, well, why would you even bother saying them at all then? Because that's something that we already learned from in history. And now, what all your ancestors fought for, equality, Martin Luther King Jr., he fought for equality. He fought the right way, and he was killed. He had a dream. That speech was beautiful. And you know what? I grew up knowing a lot of people that were very respectable. Even if they were in the street, they were still respectable. I didn't get raised like that. I didn't get raised in what is going on now. And whenever I see it, it's ugly. And whenever I see the hatred that people are constantly focusing on about something that never even happened to them, never even happened to. It didn't happen to you. Why are you focusing on it? Can't you see they're trying to get you to focus on that negativity so that you become rage and anger? It's not about what you look like, what you wear. It's not about all these things. It's about who you are on the inside. That really matters. I could tell a person's ugly just by the way they act. And I could tell that somebody's coming from a place of hurt just by the way they act. And I try not to allow what somebody else is portraying at me to affect the way I get at them. I try not to allow people to pull me out of character whenever it comes to hatred and contention and all these things that they've been taught to believe. I try and not allow all the hatred that I've been taught to believe to take resident in the way I act. And it's really important that we focus on the good, that we focus on understanding each other rather than pointing out each other's flaws and differences. Yes, I have flaws. Yes, I'm different. Yes, I'm weird. But I'm not going to treat you any different just because I was taught I was taught to love. I may not have been taught the right way, but I was taught with wrong examples that made me not want to do it that way. How about we take the wrong examples that were given and try not to do it? If you learn from somebody else's mistakes, you are a genius. The king who judges the poor with truth, his throne will be established forever. So we see a lot of malpractice in the justice system. Somebody that it used to be innocent until proven guilty, and now it's guilty until proven innocent. And even after that person is proven innocent, people continue to treat them as if they're guilty. This is not right. It's not judging people with truth. I'm going to say people instead of the poor, because in our country, most of us are poor in spirit now because of all this hatred going around. Nobody's throne can be established that way. I don't care who you are. If you mistreat people and don't judge in truth, your kingdom's going to crumble out from underneath your feet. Whatever you're building up for yourself is going to crumble out from under your feet. The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. So, this is something that I tell my son. I'm going to read it out of the other version I have, because this is the New King James Version. Let's read it out of my other Bible. Don't worry, I use this a lot. It just gets dusty around here because we live in the desert. I use both of these quite a bit. So, what verse is that? 15. A rod and reprimand impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces his mother. It also says somewhere else in Proverbs that spanking your children is not going to kill them. It's actually going to save them from death. And I tell this to my son, you may not like whenever you get disciplined, but you're going to benefit from that discipline whenever you are older. I didn't like it whenever I was a kid. For a lot of reasons, I got disciplined for no reason or for what somebody else did. So I would pick up the slack where somebody else was lacking. And this is something that I had to come to terms with, that God had to teach me, that I'm here not only to do what is expected of me, but also to pick up the slack where somebody else is lacking. It's really important that you look at the things you've been through with God's perspective and see the reason for it, rather than just say, why me? Oh my gosh. You live in depression and anger that way. Come on now. And again, I'm not speaking on something ignorantly. I'm speaking on something that I know very intimately, because I lived that anger and depression. I lived that mental illness. I lived all those things that's going on in this world up until the age of 30. I'm 33. And it took me asking God his perspective and why these things happened for me to understand that I was supposed to go through those things. And it taught me how to help others. It taught me how to be strong when other people are weak. It taught me it's okay to be weak whenever other people are strong. I need to rely on other people just as much as they need to rely on me. We're supposed to share struggles. Nobody God doesn't expect you to do this by yourself. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous will see their fall. Okay, I'm going to go back to number 15, and it says, the rod and rebuke will give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. My grandma never left me to myself. Even though I was a quiet kid and I could take care of myself, I was constantly rebuked, corrected, and I was constantly her telling me, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, was something that she would do whenever I would get so mad and I didn't understand why I wasn't able to. Why won't you let me defend myself? Why won't you allow me to fight back? And she would tell me, put yourself in their shoes. And I would, but they don't put themselves in my shoes. And I would sit there and ponder everything that she said. I would get in trouble whenever my sister beat me up, and then I would fight back. I would get beat by my grandma. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That rod was a beating rod, not a spanking rod. I'm a lot lighter on my son than I had. Okay? He doesn't. And I explained things a lot more to him than I was explained. But whenever I look back and I see these things, I look and I'm like, okay, a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. My grandma never left me to myself. She left my sister to herself, and she left my cousin Brent to himself, and my cousin Brett to himself. And she seemed to shower love on them a lot. And this is my sick and twisted little view on things whenever I was in my hatred and my anger and my depression. I focused on the negative instead of the positive. And I kept telling myself ever since I was little that there has to be a reason for this. There has to be a reason for this. And I'm glad to be able to know that there was a reason for it. In the end, before my grandma died, she expressed to me that she was proud of me. She said all the things that I needed to hear whenever I was little. She said, whenever I was talking about how God works miracles, she said, I know that God works miracles because I see it in you. And I'm proud of you. I would have never heard those words if I was still living in hatred and anger and hurt and depression. It does something to you whenever you get God's perspective on things. And it causes all those things that you needed to hear to be told to you. Correct your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will give delight to your soul. Correct your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will give delight to your soul. Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the law. Okay, this is what we're going through in our country again. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. Where there is no consequences, people don't care. I see videos where somebody behind somebody in a vehicle honks at them because they need to go because the light was red and it turned green, and that person waited till the light turned red, got out of her car, and came and ripped the windshield wiper off this person's car behind her and broke the windshield with it. where there is no revelation, where there is no uh, where there is nothing going on as consequences for your action, where there's no revelation as to why you shouldn't do these things, people cast off those restraints and they just don't care. But happy is he who keeps the law. You're much happier whenever you respect the boundaries set in place by the people that came before you. You're much happier whenever you respect other people. You're much happier whenever you respect yourself enough to uphold the law instead of trying to find every loophole that you can, or not even caring. You're much happier. A servant will not be corrected by mere words, for though he understands, he will not respond. I had that I know attitude a lot, but until I was corrected with more than just words, until I actually went through the things that people said that I was going to go through if I kept doing those things. I know. Having that I know attitude is toxic. Do you see a man hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Every man should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to the wrath, because the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. A servant, somebody that speaks hastily, speaking before you listen to somebody, is foolish. Speaking because you want to be the first to say something, there is more hope for a fool than for you. I know this because I was that. He who pampers his servant from childhood will have him as a son in the end. An angry man stirs up strife, and a furious man abounds in transgression. So, whenever you're angry and furious all the time, you're going to continuously abound. That means that you're going to bring nothing but transgression. Transgression is the same as committing sin against somebody else. Transgressing. Is causing problems for other people and yourself. If you're constantly angry and you're constantly furious about everything, you're going to cause a lot of problems for everybody and yourself. A man's pride will bring him low, but the humble in spirit will retain honor. So, pride comes before destruction. That's also in Proverbs in a different chapter. Pride comes before strong destruction. So if you don't humble yourself, you will be humbled. The humble in spirit will retain honor. So if you're continuously humbling yourself, you will have that honor that you're trying to get by being prideful. Being prideful, you're going to be humbled. And it's not going to be pretty. Whoever is a partner with a thief hates his own life. He swears to tell the truth, but reveals nothing. So that whole thing, snitches get stitches. If you actually cared about the person that you're friends with, you would tell them the truth. At least tell it to that person. If you don't want to be hated for speaking up for what's right, tell that person that what they're doing is wrong, and tell them that you're not going to be a part of it. Don't allow yourself to be a part of it. if you're afraid that you're going to get beat up if you tell the truth. No, tell that person that's expecting you to lie for them that you're not going to lie for them. Don't include me in your lie. I had to tell one of my best friends that. She was trying to include me in her lie. We were in ministry. You're not supposed to get the guy's number. You're supposed to walk with God on your own, and if you want to seek to have a relationship with somebody, you have to talk to the pastor and ask permission. This is actually something that's very important, and that's the way God wants it to be. But if you go around and sneak, it's not going to be profitable, and you're going to get in trouble. And she was trying to include me on her lie by he gave her a ring, and she said, okay, I'm going to just tell everybody that you gave me the ring. And I said, no, don't include me on your lie. And I said, you need to really think about what you're doing, and you need to think about admitting that you're doing wrong. And then she went ahead and tried to include me on her lie, so I told the truth. No, I didn't give her that. And then she got mad at me. But she had done the same thing to me whenever I first went into ministry. I was talking to a guy, and she told me that if I didn't tell on myself, she would. So I went and told on myself. I did the same thing to her, but she wanted to get pissed off at me and try and continue to hide and lie. So whoever is partner with a thief hates his own life, but he swears to tell the truth but reveals nothing. Whenever you're friends with a thief or somebody that is taking up your, it just doesn't even have to be a literal, like, I'm going to take this from you, this is mine, thief. A thief steals time, effort, and whenever you lie and cheat and steal, these are all things that go together. The fear of a man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord shall be safe. So, whenever it comes down to it, if I tell you that I'm not going to be part of your lie, I'm not going to be part of what you're doing wrong, I'm telling you that I'm not afraid of you. I'm really not. What are you going to do to me that's going to be so bad? But whoever trusts in the Lord shall be safe. That comes with fear of the Lord. And that's that reverent fear. It's not like, I'm scared of you. No. People have anxiety disorders, and I get that. Having fear of man is something that I had for a long time because I got anxiety talking in front of people. I got anxiety for a lot of reasons. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings by telling them the truth, but now today I'm not. I'm not afraid to tell the truth to somebody because they need to hear it. I'd rather tell them the truth so that they could address it with themselves and move past what they're doing than to continue to let them fail and walk towards those flames. Those flames are rather hot, it's kind of the point. It's fire. I don't want you to get burned, so I'm going to tell you the truth. Many seek the ruler's favor, but justice for man comes from the Lord. You're always going to try and seek the approval of somebody that's put in place above you. But rather to seek their favor, remember, justice comes from the Lord. If you're trying to butter somebody up, if you're trying to be a brown noser, You know what a brown noser is? You got your nose so far up the higher up's butt that you got a poo stain on your face. Justice comes from the Lord. It doesn't come from the person that you have butt face over. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, and he who is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. So just as much as we can't stand when somebody is being evil and just foul, they can't stand us in our doings of good either. Goes both ways. There's always going to be contention. There's always going to be fighting. There's always going to be butting heads. Well, what, you think you're holier than thou just because you're not going to go and join us whenever we're going out and pillaging and doing all these things that are wrong? I'm going to take this from this person and you say it's wrong. Well, yeah, it is. Well, I think that what you do is wrong. Okay. How? Okay. So you act like you're so good, but you're doing all these things that just makes me feel bad. So that's wrong. Okay? So my actions, the way I live, should not cause you. People get it twisted. They think that whenever somebody is doing good and striving to change their life and continuing to try and do things differently than the way they used to, is something that causes they have it twisted. It's not being self-righteous. It's being holding yourself accountable. There's nothing wrong with it. And if it makes you feel bad about the way you're living, you need to remember the way you treat people and the way you perceive people, it should cause, whenever you get that feeling, it should cause an urge or a want to do good. These people aren't, the people that do bad don't exactly do it just to, sometimes they do. And so I can't really say that because I've lived that. But these people that are trying to change their life, yes, there is some self-righteous people out there, so don't get it twisted. People that try and be holier than thou, and in all actuality, they're covering up a lot of stuff that they're doing wrong. He who covers his sin will not prosper, but he who is quick to confess their sin will find mercy. There's nothing wrong with trying to better yourself. But if you're trying, there's only, whenever you're using the word of God as darts and learning the Bible in order to hurt somebody else with it, that is wrong. There's always going to be disagreements between there's always going to be disagreements and contention between righteous and wicked. How about you make the difference to not push your opinion on somebody else and just lead by example. There's nothing wrong with leading by example. All right, well, I hope that you got something out of this, because I sure did. Even if you didn't. Have a good day.